A hawkish twin sun hovered low on the horizon of Kethrel 9, casting elongated shadows across the crimson dunes. At the heart of the planet's only city, the Penal Council's amphitheater yawned open like a wound in the sand, a coliseum sculpted from black basalt and bristling with hollow projectors. The audience tiers were crowded with zealots draped in council regalia, iron-laced robes embroidered with the jagged sigil of the Triune Order. Their hushed murmurs rippled through the dry air like an approaching storm. Beneath the glare of levitating floodlights stood Zarim, the so-called alien girl. Her skin, iridescent as crushed opal, caught every stray beam, scattering spectral flecks across the stone floor. She was slight, no more than a handful of Terran measurements tall, and her limbs were ensnared by graviton chains. Those coils of shimmering energy bit into her flesh with a soft, sizzling hiss, designed not merely to hold her, but to tear muscle from bone when the blades fell. The Council's herald, a gaunt figure crowned with mechanized antlers, strode to center stage. His voice, hydraulics rippling, announced the charges that had led to this massacre. Conspiracy with human interlopers, dissemination of forbidden lore, sedition against the Triune Order. As each allegation was recited, the zealots in the Koai gallery banged their obsidian staves on the barriers, demanding retribution. High above the arena floor, crystalline drums began to pulse in time with the twin sun's dying warmth. A deep gong reverberated through Zarim's chest, an alien heartbeat summoned by her people's ancient rites. She raised her head, locking her moonlit eyes on the crowd. In that moment, a trembling power stirred within her throat, a soft, melodic chant in a tongue that spoke of unity, of worlds beyond this one. But the crowd's fervor was undeterred. A sect of zealots unfurled banners depicting a broken human skull and a shattered alien crest, drawing grotesque parallels between their mutual enemies. The amphitheater's airlocks hissed, and 4 executioners, hulking cyborgs with prismatically refracted optics, emerged, each wielding a segmented blade humming with low-frequency gravitic energy. Zarim's song swelled, the notes weaving, through the chants of the executioners begging for mercy, for understanding. Yet as the first blade ignited into a serrated crescent, poised above her bound shoulder, the crowd roared its approval. Sparks danced along the graviton chains. The horizon suns dipped below the edge of the world, and as the first searing arc descended, time seemed to slow, the sands pausing mid-shimmer, the amphitheater breathing its last breath of silence before the thunderous chorus of violence. From the highest tier, a single figure watched with eyes, for not of indignation but of resolve. In that moment, a human heart decided something forbidden. The alien girl would not die here. Captain Mara Vance sat rigid in the 3rd tier, her jaw clenched beneath a hooded cloak embroidered with the faded emblem of the Astra Dawn. She had arrived only hours ago, ostensibly to trade and refuel, but rumors of an alien-facing public execution drew her interest and her unease. Every transport hub pulsed with coded whispers. The Council's proving ground for dissenters. They say her people once ruled these skies. Her fingers twitched around the wrist strap of her sidearm, but she resisted the impulse to draw it. Kethrel 9's security protocols were draconian. Any overt provocation would mean immediate arrest, or worse, becoming a target in the collateral purge they all knew would follow. Yet an ache in her chest told her she could not simply turn away. Zarim's opalescent form lay at the center of the sands, her soft chant rising above the crowd's din. There was something in the lament, a vibration that resonated with Mara's own scars. She remembered her homeworld's wars, skylines alight with bombardments, refugees huddled in broken stations, the bitter taste of loss. She had joined the merchant fleet to outrun those memories, but here they were, playing out again in alien hues. Behind her, a pair of armored zealots elbowed forward, shouting curses in the Triune tongue. Mara inhaled, steeling herself. She leaned toward a vendor hawking illicit data chips, pressing a credit token into his palm. "I need the guard schematics for Sector 12, she whispered. The vendor's third eye, an optic implant, flickered green. Within moments, he handed her a slim ocular disc imprinted with the layout of security turrets and cyborg patrol routes. She slipped the disc into her portable decryptor. Holographic schematics bloomed in the air before her. The amphitheaters, subterranean maintenance shafts, their hidden access vents, the location of the graviton chain controls. A plan began to form, dark and desperate. If she could breach the service tunnels, scramble the power conduits, she might free Zarim. But escape? That was another matter entirely. As the herald's voice thundered, Mara's hood slipped back, revealing a shock of auburn hair and eyes softened by too many lost friends. A child's voice, barely audible, slithered through the crowd. That human's here to save the traitor. Heads turned, a ripple of suspicion spread. Instinctively, Mara pressed back against the cold stone. She caught sight of a council observer, a snake-thin diplomat with an electronic collar that glowed white, studying her with hawk-like intensity. Her heart pounded as the first executioner strode forward, the gravitic blade humming to life. Zarim's gaze flickered to the tears as if searching for salvation. In that instant, Mara made her choice. She rose in one fluid motion, cloak falling to reveal her rank insignia. "Stop!" she cried, voice carrying across the arena. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The diplomat's collar flared red. Mara kept her hands visible, one resting on the decryptor at her belt. "I demand a pause in proceedings," she declared. A stunned silence fell, broken only by the distant whine of chains. The cyborg executioners halted mid-stride, their optics swiveling toward her. In that heartbeat, the world shifted. The twin suns dipped further below the horizon, and the amphitheater's floodlights snapped on in harsh white glare. Time slowed. All eyes turned to the human who dared challenge the council's will. And somewhere deep in her chest, Mara felt the echo of a promise she couldn't yet name. She would not let the alien girl die alone. A high-pitched whine cut through the hush as the first executioner realigned his segmented blade toward Zarium's bound wrist. The graviton coils pulsed, threads of electric blue tightening around her delicate arm. In the stands, the diplomats, collar flared crimson, a silent order to act. Mara's breath caught in her throat. She slipped from the tiered seats, pressing flat against the basalt wall. Every footstep echoed like thunder in the labyrinth beneath the amphitheater. The vendor's schematic glowed in her hand, projected by the tiny holodeck tucked into her palm. She navigated a narrow service corridor, lit by flickering maintenance lamps toward the vent marked Access D12. Above, the amphitheater's floodlights stuttered as the graviton drive modulator sputtered on its final charge. On the sands below, Zarium's chant faltered, her eyes widening as the blade descended. Mara found the vent grate. Her multi-tool buzzed as she ripped it free. She rappelled into the crawlspace, the air thick with the tang of ozone and fear. Ahead, control conduits snaked along the ceiling, terminating at a panel stamped with the council's seal. She hovered her decryptor over the lock matrix. Its crystalline eye spun as it worked. Moments stretched into eternities. A muffled crack sounded above, an executioner stepping off the platform. Mara's pulse raced. Finally, the panel clicked open. She slid inside and located the primary graviton regulator, a glowing orb surrounded by concentric rings. She aimed her sidearm set to overcharge and fired. The regulator's energy field fractured in a burst of light. Back in the arena, the graviton chains around Zarim glimmered violently, then unraveled like silk threads caught in a breeze. Each coil dissolved in a hiss of displaced energy. The executioners reeled, their blades sputtering out of phase. Zarim dropped to her knees, free at last, but her relief was fleeting. Security chutes on either side of the amphitheater began to seal. Mara vaulted from the vent, sliding onto the sand as rocks scraped her palms. She sprinted the gap between them, igniting her tracer beacon. "Over here," she shouted. Zarium stumbled forward, tears trailing down her opal skin. Mara caught her in a firm embrace, pressing the beacon to her chest. A moment later, the maw of the Astrodon yawned overhead, its magnetic grapple beams descending. Plasma bolts scorched the air as cyborg guards opened fire. Mara grabbed Zarim's hand and raced toward the docking hatch. Behind them, the amphitheaters, Gates clanged shut, sealing the crowd's fury inside. She felt the heat of bolt fire at her back, the thunderous roar of the ship's engines above. With one last leap, she and her passenger were swept into the ship's belly, just as the hatch slammed shut. In the sudden silence, the hum of the Astrodon's drive filled her ears. Zarim collapsed against the hatch wall, shaking. Mara knelt beside her, heart hammering. "You're safe," she whispered. Zarim's luminous crest pulsed once, twice, then stilled, exhausted but alive. Beyond the viewport, Kethrel 9 receded into the black, its dual suns sinking beneath the horizon. And in that weightless expanse between worlds, two fugitives found hope. The Astrodon shuddered as its warp drive phased them out of Kethrel 9's gravity well. In the dim glow of the cockpit's hollow panels, stars stretched into lines of silver before snapping back into pinpricks of light. Mara guided the ship through the currents of subspace, her fingers moving with practiced ease over the navigation array. Beside her, Zarim curled into a battered flight recliner, the taste of desert sand still bitter on her tongue. Mara slid across the console, producing a steaming mug of synth tea. "Here," she said softly, passing it over. Zarim hesitated, then accepted the cup with slender, tremulous fingers. The liquid's warmth seeped into her palms and she blew across its surface, watching the ripples. They drifted in silence for a moment, the hum of the drive a lullaby to the wounded. At last Zarim spoke in fractured basic. "You saved me." "Why?" Mara's eyes flicked to the viewport. "Because no one deserves to die bound to those chains," she replied. She traced a fingertip along a cracked star map projected on the dash. "I've seen enough cruelty in my time. I couldn't let it happen again." Zarim sipped her tea, her crest pulsing faintly. "My people, we believed the starborn emissary would unite species under one banner. But the Council..." Her voice cracked. "They silenced anyone who spoke of peace." Mara's heart tightened. "Tell me about the prophecy." She tapped a datapad, and Zarim's native glyphs illuminated across the screen, swirling constellations forming, the shape of a twin-winged starbird. "In our oldest legends," Zarim whispered, "a child born of two worlds will heal the rift. They thought I was the emissary, until I reached for your world's edge." She pressed her palms together, eyes closed. "I've carried that burden for cycles." Mara set the mug aside and laid a hand over Zarim's. "Then let's prove them right." She keyed a beacon to the Interstellar Peace Consortium's relay station at Virad 47. "That's where we'll find allies." Zarim opened her eyes, galaxies reflected in their moons. "You trust them?" Mara smiled, a tired, hopeful curve of her lips. "I trust that we stand together." As the Astrodon emerged from subspace, Virad 47's swirling gas torus filled the viewport. Bright docking pylons beckoned. In that moment between flight and landing, two fugitives, one human, one alien, sealed their pact. Across the void, a fragile alliance flickered into being, born from compassion and courage. And with it the promise that peace might yet endure. The crystal arches of Virad 47's Grand Hall gleamed beneath the twin lamplights as delegates from 30 worlds gathered in uneasy silence. At the dais, the Interstellar Peace Consortium's counselors, clad in robes of sapphire and jade, watched intently as Captain Mara Vance and Zarim the alien girl stepped forward. Mara's boots clicked against the polished obsidian floor. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "Honored delegates, we bring proof not only of the Council's crimes on Kethrel 9, but of a shared destiny between humans and aliens." She activated a holoprojector. Before the assembly flickered grainy recordings, graviton chains dissolving, cyborg executioners stunned, and a human pilot and alien survivor forging an alliance in flight. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zarim glided beside her, voice ringing clear in the ancient emissary tongue. "For cycles, our worlds have known fear, but prophecy speaks of unity born from compassion. Today we fulfill that promise." She translated Mara's words into the lexicon of stars, her opalescent crest glowing in time with her speech. As she spoke, the consortium's grand sealer, a matronly scientist named Lor N, rose and draped a silken banner over the treaty table. Its fabric shimmered with woven quantum threads, the sigils of human and alien worlds intertwined. Loren's quill traced the final flourish atop the accord. The chamber erupted in applause so thunderous the crystal arches trembled. Then came the reward. From beneath her robe, Loren produced the star emblem of honor, an oval medallion carved from the heartstone of Zarim's homeworld, its opal core alive with refracted starlight. With deliberate grace, she pinned it on Mara's chest. The emblem's glow pulsed against Mara's uniform, illuminating her hardened features in soft luminescence. Mara's hand reached up to touch the metal, and she caught Zarim's gaze. In that wordless exchange lay every hardship crossed, every risk taken. Around them, species once divided now spoke in unison, voices melding into a chorus of hope. As the crowds dispersed into celebration, Mara and Zarim slipped down the grand staircase together. Outside, Virad 47's gardens floated in zero-G, blossoms drifting like nebulae. Hand in hand, human and alien walked beneath the drifting flowers, their silhouettes framed by the galaxy's endless expanse. And in that moment, the reward was more than honor or treaty. It was a living testament that empathy can transcend worlds, and that even the smallest act of mercy can reshape the stars.